take a deep breath, take the higher road. That's what they always say, as if they know the way. They won't take it from me. But don't ever doubt yourself, 'cause life ain't just a dream. You make your own, so kick and scream. The people will act with a never-ending force. You never had the chance, so what you waiting for? The day has come, my friend, 'cause this is war. It's time and this is war.
In our modern world of processed convenience foods, we've lost touch with the nourishing traditions that kept our ancestors healthy and strong. But here's the exciting truth. By embracing nutrient-dense foods, we can revolutionize our health and ward off countless diseases. Nutrient-dense foods are nature's multivitamins. They are packed with essential vitamins, minerals, healthy fats, and other compounds our bodies crave. We're talking about foods like grass-fed meats, wild-caught fish, organic vegetables, fermented foods, and raw dairy. These powerhouses don't just fill our stomachs, they nourish every cell in our bodies. By consuming these foods, we are not just eating, we are investing in our health. We're reducing inflammation, boosting our immune systems, and giving our bodies the tools they need to fight off chronic diseases like cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. This is where the incredible work of the Weston A. Price Foundation comes in. Founded in 1999, this nonprofit organization has been at the forefront of nutrition education, advocating for the wisdom of traditional diets and the power of nutrient-dense foods. Dr. Weston A. Price, a dentist in the 1930s, traveled the world studying indigenous populations untouched by modern foods. His findings were astounding. These individuals eating their traditional diets were remarkably free from the chronic diseases plaguing modern society. The foundation carries on his legacy, tirelessly educating the public about the benefits of nutrient-dense whole foods and the dangers of processed foods. They advocate for sustainable farming practices, the consumption of animal fats, raw milk, and fermented foods, all key components of a truly nourishing diet. Through their research, educational programs, and advocacy, the Weston A. Price Foundation is empowering people to take control of their health through diet. They're not simply changing lives, they're potentially saving them. You're listening to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Before we get started today, I do want to encourage our listeners, if you have questions or comments, or perhaps you want to share your own experiences with what you're seeing on the front lines of healthcare, you can now submit those to us by sending them directly to nurses@americaoutloud.com. We will be featuring your questions and comments every Friday on a special Q&A episode with the nurses. We encourage all of you to engage in the battle and find your voice in this fight. But until you are able to do that, we will continue to be that voice for you. Sally Fallon Morell is founding president of the Weston A. Price Foundation, a nonprofit nutrition education foundation dedicated to returning nutrient-dense food to American tables, and editor of the foundation's quarterly journal. She is also the founder of a campaign for real milk with a goal of providing universal access to clean raw milk from pasture-fed animals. She has extensive experience in the testing and production of unpasteurized milk and milk products. She is the author of the best-selling cookbook, Nourishing Traditions, the Nourishing Traditions Book of Baby and Child Care, Nourishing Broth, Nourishing Fats, and Nourishing Diets. Her latest book is The Contagion Myth, co-authored with Dr. Thomas S. Cowan. She and her husband, Jeffrey Morell, are owners of P.A. Bowen Farmstead in Southern Maryland, which produces raw cheese and milk from pastured cows, pastured meats, and grass-fed poultry and eggs. Sally, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Very happy to be on your show.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited to kind of, virtually meet you at least, and I look forward to meeting you in person here soon. But let's just start off with, I really would like to know, what inspired you to co-found the Weston A. Price Foundation? How has its mission evolved over the years?
It was a kind of despair over what I was hearing in the media and everything. I had co-authored Nourishing Traditions with Mary Enig, And we could see that this propaganda for low fat and processed foods and against real foods like butter and raw milk, it needed some kind of counter voice. So after we published Nourishing Traditions, we set up the Weston A. Price Foundation. And basically what we try to do is take the articles and studies and everything that are coming out and interpret them for the public, and often show where they're wrong. And the other part of our mission is to help people find these foods, to make it practical. We have over 400 local chapters worldwide, and the chapters keep a local food list. If you're looking for raw milk or pastured eggs or an alternative practitioner or alternative nurse, our chapters will help you find what you're looking for.
That's amazing. I just recently, I guess it was about a year ago, was when I became familiar with your organization. I was at some conference. It might have been like the Red Pill Expo, I believe. I think that was the conference where I ran into somebody and started to learn more about your organization. Myself, as a very allopathically trained nurse, and nurses are not very well versed in nutrition. We're not educated well in nutrition at all. So I had a lot to learn. I still have a lot to learn. So I was very interested to learn about the Weston A. Price Foundation and all that you're doing, because there is so many misconceptions, right?
Yeah.
There are so many misconceptions out there. Now, the foundation often goes against the mainstream nutritional advice, right? So how do you navigate those challenges of promoting what they consider alternative views?
Or dangerous.
Dangerous, exactly.
So my co-author and co-founder was Mary Enig, who was a specialist in lipids. And she was basically the person who warned the public about the dangers of trans fats, but also just the non-trans fats, the liquid vegetable oils. And they've pretty much taken the trans fats out of the food supply. But we have to remember they started using trans fats because they knew that the oils were dangerous. And they thought this would make them more stable and less dangerous. Well, it turned out the trans fats were also dangerous. But I would say without hesitation that the number one problem in the Western diet is the industrial seed oils. These have never been in our diet before. They cause all sorts of chaos on the cellular level. They really are the culprit for heart attacks, heart disease, and certainly cancer. They're very carcinogenic. So we always say the first step in improving your diet is to get off of all the industrial seed oils. And it's not hard, because you can eat all the fat you want as long as it's traditional fats like butter. We bacon, we cook in lard, we cook in tallow. We use olive oil and make wonderful salad dressings. It's really not hard. But you do have to give up all processed food, because that's where these fats are.
Right, absolutely. That's my biggest challenge. I feel like, and I'm making changes every day. I definitely I'm done with the seed oils. I'm doing like avocado oil and an olive oil. So that's a really easy replacement, right? So it's not, like you said, it's not that.
And nurses eat terribly.
We do. That's why we're so unhealthy.
Yeah.
There are literally studies that have been done that show nurses are among the most unhealthy population you will come across. And there's lots of reasons for that. I mean, it's not just the lack of education in nutrition, but it's the stress of our jobs. It's
the long hours.
All of it combined. Really, it's the perfect storm for disease. Yeah. And, it's very difficult to preach health and wellness to people when we are not healthy or well ourselves. Yeah. So I think that as a nurse, I want to start to lead by example, and I want to be that living, breathing testament of what I want to put forth to the world. So, and I want all of the nurses that work with me to do the same. Yes. So I think that your organization is fantastic, and I can't wait to learn more about it. But, you talked about potentially dangerous, right? They are. What is your response to critics who claim that some of your foundation's dietary recommendations, like consuming raw milk, for example, are potentially dangerous?
Yes. Well, we've done a lot to show that the statistics they cite are actually false. And when properly interpreted, you don't really find any difference between outbreaks from raw milk and pasteurized milk. In fact, the greatest foodborne outbreak in the history of the world was from pasteurized milk. This was in the 1985. Almost 200,000 people got sick, and that was pasteurized milk. So we're not saying that raw milk never makes anybody sick, but it's usually extremely mild, and people recover. And same thing happens with pasteurized milk. In fact, we had 2 deaths in 2007 from pasteurized milk. We have not had any deaths from raw milk in a long time, although they say there have been deaths, but they're lying.
Exactly. Oh, they wouldn't do that.
No, yeah.
So I just started drinking raw milk. I've never been much of a milk drinker myself, but I started to drink raw milk. I find it interesting that I'm much easier to digest the raw milk.
You're not actually lactose intolerant, are you?
Right. No, not at all. And I just, I never really enjoyed the taste of milk. I'll be honest. I never enjoyed the taste of it, but the raw milk I actually have really liked. I've been able to digest it so much easier, but I'm trying to do like a glass of that a day. And
that's what I do. A big glass in the morning. What you'll find is that when you weigh yourself, you'll weigh more, even though you still fit in your clothes, because your bones are getting stronger.
Oh, I'm glad you told me that, because I would have been very disturbed if I could.
You might look like you put on 10 pounds, but you won't, nobody will see it.
Right.
Your bones become more dense.
That's interesting. Well,
and we've actually had a couple of people tell us they were diagnosed as with osteoporosis. They drank raw milk for 2 years, went back for their DEXA scan, and they didn't have osteoporosis anymore. And the doctors were just amazed. They'd never seen anything like that.
That's interesting. Now, if you could just share like a pivotal moment in your journey that solidified your belief in the power of this traditional nutrient-dense foods. Like, what was your aha moment about?
Well, I think it was reading Dr. Price's book, and I read that after my first child was born in 1974. And I had been trained in French cooking, and my parents were Francophiles and foodies, and we just ate rich food at home. I loved pate, for example. I always cooked in butter. I loved whipped cream. And when I read Dr. Price's book, I thought, well, I'm eating just the way I should be eating, and just continued on. And that was in the teeth of this pretty much relentless propaganda coming out for a low-fat diet. And a low-fat diet means no butter or animal fats, but you don't see the fats that are in the processed foods.
Right.
And you're still eating lots of fat. The wrong kind.
Right, the wrong kind, exactly. And speaking of diets, like, do you have, I'd love to get your perspective. There's been definitely a rise of plant-based diets. That's very trendy. Very
trendy. I'm amazed at how much energy and money is put in this campaign for plant-based diets. And the reason is, I have one son who's a chef, and he said, when you buy a plant-based diet in a restaurant, the profit is much, much higher than if you buy a steak. And if you buy a muffin in a coffee shop, it's almost pure profit for the restaurant. So there's a lot more profit in the plant-based foods. That's all there is to it.
So how does this align, or does it conflict with your foundation's principles? Do you believe in plant-based at all, a mixture of vegetables?
Yeah, we're equally concerned. We don't recommend a plant-based diet because you'll develop all sorts of nutrient deficiencies. But we're equally concerned about these very high meat diets, high protein diets. That's not how traditional people ate. Dr. Price found that the best health was in people who had a diet was somewhere in the middle. They had plant foods and they had animal foods. And I think that that's the way most people want to eat. They don't want an extreme diet because they're so hard to stay on.
Right, I agree. And I see so many people going to one extreme or the other. Either they're doing extreme carnivore, or they're doing extreme, plant-based or raw vegan. And for me, I think it's an improvement if I'm eating whole foods, right? If I'm eating things that aren't processed.
And you're eating lots of fat. So, I always say the purpose of vegetables is a vehicle for butter. and
Yes.
and nothing's dry, nothing's hard to eat. We include desserts in our diet made with natural sweeteners. We have delicious soft drinks in the form of kombucha and lacto-fermented foods. We have, nothing's left out of our diet. We like to say you can have it all on the Wise Traditions diet. You just need to think about the form that these foods are going to take.
Right. And so do you have specific different types of diets? Like, for example, if somebody is trying to lose weight, do you have a diet specific for that?
We do have a few specific diets. In other words, you tweak your diet for your situation. For weight loss, we recommend intermittent fasting. So you only have 2 meals a day. Now, of course, we would not recommend this for pregnant women or growing children. But if you're trying to lose weight, you either have a good breakfast and a good lunch, or a good lunch and a good dinner. And most people really need that breakfast. So they have breakfast and a kind of late lunch. And if those meals are nutrient dense and with plenty of fat in them, you will not be hungry for a third meal.
Yeah,
And
I believe
it's
that.
it's very slow weight loss, but it's very healthy weight loss.
Yeah. The slower the better. I feel like that's you're gonna actually keep the weight off. And I've struggled for many years, up and down with my weight. I'm in the throes of menopause, which all of my listeners know. They all know about
Well,
that.
this is another thing. We really caution women of our age, after menopause to be too thin, because in traditional societies everywhere, women gain weight after menopause. They become sturdier. Their bones get bigger. Usually their shoulders get broader. They have a different role in society, and they gain midriff weight, which produces stem cells and estrogen, which you need in your later years. So I'm very concerned about this notion that women past menopause should be super thin, and the other thing that will happen is they get wrinkles.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And I was saying that because it's your body just goes through so many changes. And it's not even necessarily that my weight has changed, but it's like the fat just gets distributed. I feel
It gets
different
distributed
ways,
differently, and
unflattering ways, I feel, but whatever.
we need to dress a little bit differently.
Yes.
But I think if you're older, people have a lot more respect for you if you're actually a little bit bigger.
Oh, well, good. Well, then I'm going to have to just stay the way I am then.
Yeah, stay the way you are. Yeah, you're perfect. I've had women come up to me, and they look lovely, and they're not thin, and they say, "Oh, how can I lose weight?" I said, "Why do you want to lose weight? You look wonderful."
Yeah.
So we need to really emphasize that. One of the things they've done, how they change guidelines. So something that's normal is considered bad, like they've lowered the blood pressure guidelines. Used to be when you were older, 150/80 was just fine, and now you have to be 120/70. They've also changed the guidelines for weight, and they will call you obese just by what you weigh on the scale, and you're not obese. It's really horrible what they've done with the weight guidelines.
They're doing this with cholesterol, the cholesterol
Oh,
guidelines
yes,
as
yes.
well. Now it used to be under 100, I believe it was for forever. And now it's under 70. And I think that my take on that is that they're doing this in an attempt to put more people on statins.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that's my take on that. Because but they do this all the time. The same thing with the blood pressure, and it was just in an attempt.
And I think they've done it with diabetes too. They've, lowered that a little bit, and they can put everybody on metformin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, by those standards, like everybody is,
Yeah.
everybody
That's what
has
they
high
want. They
cholesterol.
want
Everybody has
everybody
blood
on a
pressure.
pharmaceutical drug.
Yeah.
So it's really up to the individual now. You're not gonna get help from the establishment, and you're not going to change them either. But you can change yourself, and you can just opt for healthy foods, the whole foods diet, the right kinds of fats. You can learn to say no.
You know what I'd really like to get your position on is, what are your thoughts on? I know that you encourage meats definitely, and fats, animal fats. What is your position on cured meats?
Pardon me?
cured meats?
Cured meat.
Hmm.
Well, interesting you should ask because I did not recommend any pork in Nourishing Traditions. For one thing, my co-author was Jewish and I wanted to respect her, but also I had heard that if you eat pork, it causes undesirable changes in the blood, clumping of the blood.
Right.
So we actually did a study on this. We have a gal who does live blood cell analysis, and she looked at people's blood before and after they ate different types of pork. And sure enough, if you just eat a pork chop before, you may be fine, but afterwards your blood clumps up very seriously.
Oh.
However, if you marinate that pork chop, the blood does not clump up. And if you eat prosciutto ham, the blood does not clump. And if you eat bacon, this was the really good news,
Yes.
the blood does not clump up. So cured meats, we kind of added those, and that's a really great thing because you want the natural cured meats without all the additives. But cured meats are really fermented meats. And they are the snack foods of our ancestors. They ate salami, they ate ham, they ate bacon. And this is a great choice. Like if you're a nurse and you take your lunch to work, the cured meats are a good choice for you.
Yeah, so I'm really glad to hear you say that because I enjoy the cured meats. But
Yeah.
now I get to the point where if they're saying this is bad for you, I'm like, oh my God, I have to go get a pound of it because surely if they're telling me it's bad,
Yeah.
it's good.
But you want the right kind of cured meats.
Mhm.
And that's the other wonderful thing that's happened. So much more is available today than when we started out 25 years ago. You can get raw milk, you can get pastured meats at a grocery store, you can get grass-fed butter at a grocery store. And now they're starting to carry a lot of artisan cured meats. And so that's another thing that's available that wasn't before.
Right. And then the fermented foods, how
Yeah.
do you see the role of the fermented foods in modern diets? Why are those so crucial in the
Yeah.
Weston A. Price philosophy?
Every single traditional diet in the world, and I wrote about this in my book, Nourishing Diets, has fermented foods.
Mhm.
It could be fermented meats, fermented milk, but it's usually things like sauerkraut or pickles. And this goes right along with this whole paradigm shift we've seen. 20 years ago, the only good microbe was a bad microbe, right?
Yeah.
And your body was supposed to be sterile, and germs attacked it, and that's what made you sick. Now we know different. We know that the healthy human being has 6 pounds of beneficial bacteria in the intestinal tract, and that's what keeps us well. Without that bacteria, we're very sick puppies. And in the traditional diets, they ate fermented foods or fermented beverages every day, and that replenished the bacteria in the intestinal tract every day. You got, it's like taking a probiotic. But 1 tablespoon of natural, uncooked, raw sauerkraut has more beneficial bacteria in it than a whole bottle of probiotic pills. So we really need to get these things into our diet. And they are available too now. You can get those at health food stores, whereas you couldn't before.
What is your favorite fermented beverage?
Oh, well, I'm a big kombucha maker. I make my own. I let it get very sour. But there's also some great recipes in my book, Nourishing Traditions. One is with apple juice. If you can get unpasteurized apple juice, you add whey and salt, let it ferment, and it is absolutely delicious. So I look forward to the day we can buy that kind of beverage.
Right, exactly. And that's the other thing is because to eat in this a certain way, it takes a lot of effort. It's not that easy because it's a lot of preparation. So how do these busy modern families incorporate the Weston A. Price dietary principles?
Yeah, and that is a challenge, and everybody is so busy. And we'll start with breakfast, for example. One way to do this is to do oatmeal, soaked oatmeal, and make a big pot, and you just heat it up every morning. That's as easy as putting the dry cereal in the bowl. I think children going to school should have eggs. They're a brain food. They keep their blood sugar stable. And yeah, so mom has to get up a little bit early for that. But she can make an egg casserole the night before. There's a lot of things you can do the night before.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to prioritizing, and we just need to make our health and our families a priority again, you know?
Absolutely. And how are you going to spend your time and money?
Yes.
And, we all finally get into a routine. Um, like now, it's just myself and my husband. I only make two big meals a week, and then I use leftovers.
Mhm.
So that, makes it pretty easy.
I think we overcomplicate things a lot of
Mhm.
times. We just go right to the, and I do it myself. I'm probably the most guilty of saying, I just don't have the time. I just don't have the bandwidth. I can't do meal prep. I can't do all of these things. But you're right. Once you get into a routine, it does become easy. It's much more manageable, and you can use leftovers and things of that nature.
Oh, yes, you can use leftovers. I'm a great soup maker. About twice a month, I make a big pot of soup and freeze it. So
Yeah,
it
I
could be
mean,
beef barley, it could be some kind of chicken soup, cream soup, and freeze that, and then it's instant dinner.
and we're certainly going to save money by doing that as well. And it's people complain about the cost as well, that it's associated with eating healthier. It does cost a lot more money to eat healthier foods. Buying whole foods is more expensive, but like I try to really impart this to people, like you are either going to pay a little bit now, or you're going to pay for
Great.
it with disease and despair later on.
Yes,
So I
absolutely.
think
And
your health is
as
invest.
our cost of food as a percentage of the family budget was down to 9%. Now it's up to about 11%. But in most cultures, you're paying 20 to 30% of your family budget on food. And we've gotten it down really low, but we also have the highest healthcare costs in the world.
Right, right. I think, once we spend a little bit more on these healthier foods, and then we are going to be healthier, we're going to be spending less money on our healthcare, on our medications. We can probably get off of many of these
Yes.
pharmaceuticals.
And
That's
in
going to be
children, you find less asthma, less respiratory disease, fewer allergies.
Mhm.
Just life is just so much more pleasant when you're not suffering from what I call second generation health problems.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that many of our, diseases and health conditions are due to big pharma. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, and we're so conditioned to just think that this is normal and just part of life or part of getting older. And really, I don't think anything could be
it
further
shouldn't be
from the
that way.
truth.
You shouldn't have any health issues ever,
Yeah,
really. I
right.
mean, the body is an amazing thing and it's designed to be healthy all your life. My husband's 98, still drives a tractor. He
Oh,
has
bless.
no
God
health issues,
bless. That's
except it's a little
amazing.
hard for him to walk. But
Yeah.
uh, he's no diabetes, nothing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we're going to delve into this topic and more. We're going to take a really short break, but we'll be back here shortly. America Out Loud Talk Radio plays on the iHeartRadio network. You can also listen on our media player from any web browser anywhere in the world. We have the best in-class apps available on Apple, Android, or Alexa 24/7. Great Talk Radio. All of our shows go to podcast the following day. You can hear them on apps such as Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeart Podcast, and many more. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show on Apple Podcasts for me. Don't forget to check out our online store at americaoutloud.shop, where you can find all of the products that we represent on our network at a discounted rate, including an incredible line of products from Chemical Free Body. Their 100% herbal formulations are based on thousands of years of biological system science. Unlike the majority of supplements you'll find on the market, with Chemical Free Body, you won't have to worry about harmful other ingredients, binders, fillers, or flow agents. Their ultra-safe breakthrough nano-silver technology destroys pathogens, balances microbiome, and boosts immunity. All of these products are proudly made in the USA and are backed by an unheard of double your money back guarantee. I've made a twice daily Green 85 drink part of my regular routine, which has led to a decrease in belly bloat and an increase in my energy throughout the day. Use promo code OUTLOUD to save 20% off the Healthy Gut Bundle. I'll catch you on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
It's time and this is what.
Got gastrointestinal issues? We created a 3-step, doctor-formulated, completely natural gut reboot system that takes less than 2 minutes a day to start working for you. Step 1. Gut Detox Formula, a gentle way to clean the intestines and balance the body. Step 2, Nano Silver Solution, a safe way to restore gut bacteria balance and protect us from pathogens. Step 3, Green 85 Juice Formula, a simple way to replace the 85% of nutrition farmed out of our soil so our body can repair itself and increase energy levels. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/outloud today. Get the Malcolm Healthy Gut Bundle, reboot your gut and your energy, and save 20% on your first order.
The Wellness Company is offering the Signature Series Spike Support Formula. The Wellness Company supports this formula because it's designed to remove spike protein from the body. The Spike Support Formula is designed to help the body catabolize the spike protein, begin to remove it through its natural mechanisms. So go to twc.health and check out the Spike Support Formula. You can use our promotional codes or go through our banner bars on our site to get promotional codes and discounts on your purchase.
Worried about spike protein? Dr. Peter McCullough and the Wellness Company may have a solution. Get the incredible American-made, GMO-free spike formula from the Wellness Company. Go to twc.health and use promo code OUTLOUD for an exclusive discount.
Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death and disability. Today's high-stress, on-the-go lifestyle makes it hard to stay heart healthy. Lifestyle changes like exercise and diet are critical, but you can also support your heart with concentrated nutrients. Healthy Cell created Heart and Vascular Health to support 3 aspects of heart health: cholesterol, blood pressure, and triglycerides, with CoQ10, vitamin K2, resveratrol, and soluble fiber. And Healthy Cell's not a pill. It's a patent-pending gel you swallow with ultra-absorption of science-backed ingredients. You would need to take 13 pills to get the same amount of nutrients in each gel pack. And these great-tasting gels come in a small packet. Tear off the top, shoot it down, or mix it in water. Get heart healthy. Go to healthycell.com and use code OUTLOUD for 25% off your first order. Healthycell.com, code OUTLOUD for 25% off.
Many voices, one freedom, united in the First Amendment. Our goal is to herald the voice of genuine liberty at AmericaOutloud.news, a place where you'll find the naked truth expressed with a patriotic heart. Now is our time, my fellow Americans. America Out Loud Talk Radio. Liberty and justice for all.
Welcome back to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Ovichin. Wherever you're listening from today and whatever you're doing, I thank you for giving me the gift of your time. Be sure to make AmericaOutloud.news your daily stop for all the latest news and happenings. We all must do our part and share the stories, the articles, the podcasts, and videos so we can help secure America's future. If you're just joining us, I've been talking with the founding president of the Weston A. Price Foundation, Sally Fallon Morell. Let's jump right back in. Sally, thanks again for being here with me today.
You're welcome.
Very much enjoying this incredible conversation. I want to talk a little bit about, you have a book, and your new book, you have several books, but this new book that you had that came out, it was originally titled The Contagion Myth.
Yes.
But tell me about why Amazon has made you change the title of your book.
Well, they rejected it. So I said, well, that's okay. We'll just say banned on Amazon, and that's a good sales point.
Exactly.
But our publisher said, no, we have to be on Amazon. So he changed the title. He didn't change the book. He changed the title to The Truth About Contagion, and then they accepted it. So I don't know how their vetting process works, but we did get on Amazon then.
So it doesn't matter what the book says. So the content's all the same.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Yeah.
That's so funny. So tell me a little bit about the book. What is it about?
So we challenge two, I would say, foundations of modern medicine. One is that there are no viruses. Now, there are bacteria, and in certain circumstances, bacteria can produce toxins that make us sick. But the disease always comes first. The bacteria are the cleanup crew. It's like if you find a dead dog in the street and it's covered in maggots, you don't say that maggots killed the dog. You know that the maggots are cleaning up the dead flesh, and that's the role of bacteria. But the viruses, this is, they were talking about viruses way before they could ever they ever thought they saw them, because they're so small. And that's because for a lot of diseases, they couldn't find a bacteria. Anyway, now they say they can see viruses in the electron microscope, but we really don't know what they're seeing. They have to kill the tissue with metals like silver, and what they're looking at is, it's kind of like a skeleton or something. And they see little round things, but that could be an artifact of how they prepare the cultures. What they do to say they found a virus, they take like a spit or some blood or some fluid from a sick person, and they don't actually isolate the whatever's in there, but they put it in a culture. And along with the culture, they put antibiotics that are very toxic to the kidneys. And these cultures only work in kidney cells. They don't work anywhere else. And the cultures break down, and they say that they found the virus. If you're, I know a lot of people they just can't believe what we're saying, but if you listen to Andy Kaufman's videos, he explains this very, very well. The other thing we say in this book is there's no such thing as contagious disease. And the first thing I'll say is, if diseases were contagious, nursing would be a really hazardous profession. But of course, you're not catching any diseases from your patients.
It took me 2 years to even catch COVID, and I worked in the ICU directly caring for COVID patients throughout the pandemic, and I didn't get COVID for 2 years. So
yeah, and I got COVID after being in an airport. We are arguing that the main cause of COVID is the rollout of 5G, which is microwaves, and also the installation of much stronger Wi-Fi. It's called MIMO Wi-Fi. So you remember in the old days, if you went to a baseball game, you couldn't use your cell phone because there wasn't enough bandwidth in the stadium for everybody's cell phone. But now when you go, everybody can use their cell phone. And this is because of the improvements that they've made and so forth. And so we're all bathed in a sea of microwaves now. Yeah. And my belief is that COVID is the body gets sick and kind of adjusts to this, because most people afterwards, they can deal with this EMF. But I've looked at a lot of diseases, smallpox, for example. There was a doctor in Texas who, back in the days when smallpox was, there was a lot of smallpox, he believed it was caused by bed bugs, and he got rid of the bed bugs in his clinic and smallpox disappeared. TB, I've looked at carefully, and TB, I believe, is caused by toxic iron fumes. It's identical to a disease called siderosis, which welders get, people who work in, with iron. And in the 1800s, there was so much exposure to iron. In war, everything was iron, see? And people burn coal, and the smoke from coal is very high in iron. So the point being that we really can't solve these diseases unless we know what's really causing them. And if we say, oh, this is a contagious virus, we're not going to solve the mystery of all of these diseases.
And that's the problem, is that we don't ever get to the root cause of any disease. Right. And that's why we just continue being sick. Because
a really good book is The Invisible Rainbow by Furstenberg. There's only one time in the history of medicine in the United States that they actually did contagion studies, and that was during the Spanish flu. And they tried to show that the Spanish flu was contagious, and they couldn't. They took prisoners, volunteers, and they exposed them to people who had the Spanish flu. These were well people exposed to sick people, and they had the sick people cough on them and spit on them, and they took the spit from the sick people and injected it into their noses, and they took blood from the people with Spanish flu and put it in the blood of the well people. They didn't have one single case where a well person got sick this way.
Wow.
They also did it with horses. So, horses don't lie. So anyway, that really opened my eyes. And Furstenberg believed that the Spanish flu was caused by the rollout of radio towers, and which happened at the military bases first. So, and then the other thing was they treated it with lots of aspirin, very high doses of aspirin, which basically killed them.
Causing all that liver toxicity.
So anytime they say something is contagious, you really need to ask. So how do you know it's contagious? Have you done a contagion study? Have you isolated a microorganism that's for this disease only and causes the disease in every subject?
I'm going to get your book. I really think that that'll be an interesting read. So I'm going to go ahead and get that. And I'm going to make sure that we include a link to purchase your book in the show notes that'll accompany this episode, because it does sound like a very interesting read. I will definitely check it out.
Yes.
I'm sure many of our listeners will as well.
Yeah. I also did a big article on anthrax, which was supposed to be caused by this microbe, and show that it was actually caused by arsenic in the sheep dips that they use. And a lot of professions are exposed to arsenic also.
Right. Well, I feel like I have a natural distrust for just about everything these days.
Well, it's a really hard pill to swallow, because it's been so ingrained that there's these viruses that mutate, and you catch these viruses and then you pass them on to other people. And so that's all the justification for the vaccines and the masks and the social distancing and so forth.
Right. Which, if you understand, anything about masking, or understand that mask is not going to stop transmission of an aerosolized virus.
No.
They continue.
And they're blocking your oxygen.
Yes, and you're breathing on all of the CO2 and all of the, it's a petri dish. It's like a petri dish, and you're sticking it on your face and you're just breathing in bacteria. Because I would see people not really wearing their masks, or stuffing it in their pocket and then taking it out of their pocket and putting it back on their face. Dirty.
Yeah, they're dirty. Yeah. And they're not washed every day, or even if they were washed every day, they'd still be dirty. And I think there was a study that came out showing that children wearing masks had a lot of lung infections.
Yes.
Fungal infections in the lungs. And I think they pulled it. I don't think it's out there.
I've seen so much of that, like so many fungal infections and bacterial infections. And I think it's a combination of the masking. I think it's a combination of that, along with the vaccines, which I truly and really believe have destroyed immune systems in many children and healthy adults.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing just such an increase. I've been in healthcare for nearly 30 years. I saw more cases of like strep throat in adults that you wouldn't see normally.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
All kinds of just infections you wouldn't normally. RSV in adults. When did we ever see that? Right.
Yeah.
So I think that it's we're talking about the destruction of immune systems, and then we couple that with rebreathing and all of this bacteria is causing a lot of health issues for many people.
That's a shame. It's just an absolute catastrophe, the whole thing.
It really is.
It woke a lot of people up. Not everybody.
No, not everybody, myself included. I will say I always had a natural distrust, and I've always asked questions, but COVID was just so eye-opening to me to see what was happening, and asking myself about the remdesivir was the big thing for me, was why are we using this antiviral medication when they're well past the replication phase? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. Why would we be doing that, especially knowing how harmful that medication is? It had shown an increase in mortality, decrease in renal function. I had seen it given to patients who were already in renal failure.
Yeah,
So, I
and
mean,
then the
we were killing
intubation on top of all that.
Yes, the unnecessary intubation on top of that, because they were doing that to contain, within their words, to contain the virus, because once they're on that closed loop system, the virus is no longer disseminated in the air, and it was being done in an attempt to protect healthcare workers, which is to me the most egregious thing I'd ever seen in all of my career. So yeah, we're literally signing death warrants when we were doing things like that, and that's why I walked away from my career as a nurse.
Yeah, good for
Because I
you.
knew I didn't get into nursing to harm people.
Yeah, and other doors open for you. So,
Yes.
I mean, you have to be honest and go with what you know is the right thing to do.
Right. And it's hard. It's really difficult to, and I can almost understand why some people don't want to open their eyes, because there's a level of evil.
Scary.
There's
Scary.
a level of evil that you can't unsee. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And sometimes I wonder if it's a blessing or a curse. I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting. So I will include your book in the show notes for sure. But let's talk a little bit about you have a conference coming up.
Yes, and you will be a speaker at the conference.
Yes,
So
oh my gosh, let me just tell you just how incredibly honored I was to have been invited to speak at this conference. I think I called like 10 people that day. I was like, oh my God, you'll never believe where I'm speaking. And my entire team is so excited about it. So tell me a little bit about the conference, what kind of speakers. You said I will be speaking there, and I'm very, very excited to share what we're building with Remnant Healthcare and how we can, provide care for our clients in a meaningful way. But tell me about what some of your other speakers and what kind of topics we can expect.
So this is a yearly conference. It's grown from 75 people in a church basement to well over 1,000 people every year. And we have lots of speakers, lots of exhibits. But the thing we're most proud of is we really serve good food at these conferences, and the food that illustrates our principles. So people just love the food. Our big star this year is Thomas Massey, who will be speaking at our banquet, and he's the representative who's done so much for farmers and really advocated for farmers. We have Tom Cowan, who is, my colleague. He will be doing a couple of talks. We have, no, I have the notes in front of me. We have, and myself, of course, we have Natasha Campbell McBride, who does the GAPS diet with autistic children and with great success. Another wonderful speaker this year is Pam Schoenfeld. I really have to twist her arm to get her to come, but she is a dietitian who treats especially infertility with a high vitamin A diet. And, vitamin A is one of these things they tell us is really bad for us. And these gals get pregnant when they follow her advice. So yes, Pam will be there. We have a lot of practical talks, cooking talks and that kind of thing as well. We have a really great speaker on chickens and raising backyard chickens. So yeah, Hussey is, can't think of his first name, but he is a really good speaker on heart disease, what's causing heart disease, why it's not cholesterol.
Right. Because we need cholesterol. Cholesterol is actually healthy. Our brains need cholesterol.
Yeah.
And so many of these things that we're told are bad, it's like we live in this upside down world.
And they just put everybody on cholesterol. They just assume that, we all suffer from this made up disease called high cholesterol.
It's really interesting to see. And I can't understand their agenda most of the time, but I don't want to understand that level of evil. I just want to ignore everything they say at this point.
Well, and the doctors, as I say, I really feel sorry for them. If you are in a cardiology practice, you have to prescribe cholesterol, statins. You have to prescribe statins. If you don't, not only you won't get your bonus at the end of the year, but none of the other doctors will either. So there's tremendous peer pressure on you to prescribe statins for everybody.
And I've really been very vocal about this. I actually held an event back in 2022. I had held a patients' rights rally, and it was really to shine a light on incentivized medicine, which I think we need to completely do away with. I don't know how it's
It should be illegal. It's like racketeering, basically.
Exactly. We have got to stop this because incentivized medicine is not healthcare, and it needs to end. So I will continue to shine a light on this because many people don't even realize the financial kickbacks that these physicians.
Yeah, well, I think that'll be a very good thing to include in your talk.
Oh, yes. I actually talk a great deal about the financial kickbacks. And a lot of people don't understand that about vaccines either, is that pediatricians are financially incentivized to sometimes to the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on their size of their practice, to keep that practice in compliance with the CDC schedule. And that's why if you choose to not vaccinate your children, they will fire you as a patient because you're going to mess with their numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why they get so aggressive.
Yes.
It's all about the money.
Exactly. And
they are truly trapped in this system. And I feel terrible grief for the children who are harmed by these vaccines, but actually I feel even greater sympathy for the doctors who are trapped in this. I mean, their mental and spiritual life must be just hell.
I know. And some of them, I think, know and don't say anything because of their, they want to keep their career, which I can't relate to that, because once I saw what was happening, I could not imagine not speaking out against it. I mean, we're harming people, and then the first principle of medicine is do no harm. And to me, a paycheck is never going to be greater than a human life. So I will never.
Well, these doctors have their educational loans to pay off, and the mortgage, and they're trying to start a family and a practice, and pressure on them is tremendous. So the website for our conference is wisetraditions.org, and the conference is in Orlando, Florida, from October 25th to 27th.
Excellent. And just so everybody knows, I'll be speaking on that Sunday. I think it's a Sunday, right?
Yes.
So just so everybody knows, but you should all come for the entire conference. I am going to stay for the entire conference. I really want to absorb all of this incredible information and listen to all the talks. So
we do give CEUs for nurses.
Oh, great. Fantastic. That's always a good selling point. The CEUs are a good selling point. Nurses love CEUs. I happen to come licensed in a state that does not require CEU. So I am one of the very few lucky ones that don't have to worry about that.
And what state is that?
Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Tennessee does not require CEUs for their nurses, which I think is fantastic. But that is a great selling point. So I will be promoting this event quite extensively. I really want people to get there, listen to the principles of the Weston A. Price Foundation and how they can incorporate these into their daily lives, because it's really going to make a difference. The way we eat, I think that is the biggest and the simplest thing that we can do.
Yes. To me, it's 80%.
Yeah.
The homeopathy, the herbs, the chiropractic, all the modalities, and conventional medicine. Sure. They all have their place. One good example is the way they treat kidney stones today. I mean, that's a huge improvement on what they used to have, because you died from blocked, kidney stones blocking. But so there's a place for all of these, but the basis is the diet, and without the diet, none of the others will work.
Yeah. And I say this all the time about, my time as an ICU nurse. Some of the most depressing part of that job was seeing so much disease and despair come through those doors time and time again. And most of it was like 85% probably of all of that was preventable.
Yes.
Simple lifestyle modifications and changing the diet. So I think that is the biggest thing. And I think that this conference is really a great for families, great for especially young.
We have a children's program. We love to see families there, and there are a lot of families who come, lots of kids there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you have a young family, these younger families that are really looking for ways to, not give their kids like the TV dinners and stuff. I mean, I grew up in the 80s. We all ate TV dinners and just terrible. We ate terribly. But I think that I see more and more people waking up to the fact that they need to be feeding their children healthy, nutrient dense foods. And I'd love to see that. So I would encourage, all of my listeners, if you have young families and you want to learn different ways to make sure that you are supporting their nutritional needs, that you do come out to the Weston A. Price Foundation yearly conference. I think that it's going to be a great opportunity for nurses, for everybody, really.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. I'm excited to meet you too.
I am as well, Sally. It's been really wonderful to have you on. I am running out of time. I wish I could have you on here longer, because there's certainly no shortage of topics that we could speak on. But I appreciate you coming on with me today and sharing this incredible information. As I said earlier, we will include links to your book and to the conference and all of the websites that you are associated with in the show notes that will accompany this once it goes to podcast.
Very good. Well, we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that is all the time that we have for today, friends. But remember, we are here on the air 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also catch the encore at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please be sure to tune in and listen to myself and my amazing sister nurses. As we walk you through all of these hot topics, we will empower you with information and education. We will advocate and we will stand in the gap for you, because we are nurses and this is what we do. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton, and you can find me here every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until next time, be safe, be well, and God bless. And remember, we are in a war for truth. We are putting out a bounty on the real misinformation and exposing the purveyors of propaganda. No topic is off limits as we shine our lights and expose the darkness.
It's time